Who do you think is better trained, who is strong and sorry smarter? GRU, main Intelligence Directorate, or SAS, and why is the British consider themselves better? They have a think about our special forces. People who read this secret document report that according to the new concept, not only the structure of all secret special units of the British Armed Forces is seriously changing, but also the tactics of combat operations. How does a future confrontation with the British Special Forces with the Russian GRU look like? Welcome. This is New Soldier. Today about the cool special forces. Russian or British, and also why are the British so afraid of us, or vice versa. But they certainly have a think about our country. So we start. According to the document, the concept of special operations, special services of the Foggy Albion will start active actions against Russia in areas where it is impossible to use conventional British troops. For example, in Ukraine, Africa and the Baltic states. Here security services can conduct an operation to reveal secret activities of Russian security services and their hybrid formations. Having collected facts and evidence of subversive activities of Russians, British security services will decide to make the materials public or to eliminate Kremlin agents with the support of local security forces. The British military leadership is convinced that the Kremlin is successfully using GRU, so London wants to expand its capabilities and take the so-called revenge. Who will be involved in a secret war against Russia? That's right, special forces. In the UK it breaks down to three main segments. The regular Special Air Service Regiment, 22 SAS, Special Boat Service, SBS, Special Reconnaissance Regiment, SRR. SAS, Special Air Service, is a special unit of the British Armed Forces established back in 1941. In recent years, SAS fighters have shown themselves in Afghanistan, Iraq and Syria. This elite unit is a model for special forces in many other countries around the world. It is engaged in enemy forces tests, participates in counter-terrorism operations and direct armed clashes, as well as in the release of hostages. Today, the SAS British Special Forces unit is one of the most effective counter-terrorism units in the world. SBS, Special Boat Service, Special Operations Unit of the Royal Navy, established in 1940. Often these special naval units operate in closer cooperation with its SAS colleagues. SBS is in charge of intelligence. It specializes in maritime operations, so its fighters are specially trained to fight at sea using boats and crossings. SRR, Special Intelligence Regiment, special unit of the UK, established in 2005 on the basis of the 14th Intelligence Company, performs agent intelligence tasks. SRR fighters conduct covert technical surveillance, auditioning, penetrating the computer networks, drive all vehicles, lead hand-to-hand combat, and provide first aid. This unit pays special attention to the study of foreign languages. SAS and SBS fighters are trained in the SRR regiment. Have you ever heard a story about British Special Forces before? Tell it in the comments, and we'll go on. Of these three units, the role and importance of the SRR service will increase significantly. It is engaged in covert surveillance and information gathering. This includes physical and technical surveillance, installation of cameras in insurgent-occupied territory, eavesdropping of all kinds and electronic networks hacking. According to the military of Great Britain, all major military leaders of Her Majesty the Queen believe that Russia uses its military intelligence GRU in Ukraine, Syria and Africa very effectively. The operations are typical, witty and bold. According to the military and the British government, it is the GRU that is behind the attack on the defector Sergei Skripal and his daughter Julia. It is not in vain that in early July 2019 the Chief of General Staff, Sir Mark Carleton-Smith, mentioned at a London conference the need to confront authoritarian regimes that manage to work in the so-called grey zone between the world and open war, when the struggle unfolds mostly in the information, cybernetic, cultural and cognitive dimensions. Sir Mark Carleton-Smith was afraid to openly call Russia the dangerous state, but journalists got it right. But let's take a closer look at the British and Russian Special Forces. So, SAS is the current foundation of the main combat force not only of Her Majesty's military forces. Most of the special forces around the world are organized and trained following the example of SAS. The air service was founded during the Second World War and was mainly involved in the subversive operations in North Africa. Once again, but after half a century, the unit's tasks have changed somewhat. It is responsible for counter-terrorism operations and the training of special forces in countries friendly to the United Kingdom, but the nature remains the same. Today there are about 500 people in the service, as said. SAS can be recognized by the company birds in the sand color. SAS fighters training. As expected, the SAS training course is distinguished by its attention to the superpowers of job seekers, from Apache knife fights and the Jutsundo hand-to-hand system to subversive masters. Experts of all levels will meet applicants for this elite unit, but before mastering lethal techniques, newcomers will have to survive 5 weeks of physical hell. The start is usually attended by 200 candidates who are able to sit down 50 times and do 44 push-ups, then run 1.5 miles in 9 minutes. Do you think you could pass such tests? Tell us what you think about it in the comments, and we'll go on. Of all the contenders, about 30 will reach the final. At the end of the first stage, soldiers must run 4 miles in half an hour and swim 2 miles in an hour and a half, in full uniform. After that, the survivors are sent to the Malaysian jungle, where they undergo a survival course, a capture simulation and 36-hour interrogation with a passion. Those who were able to keep their sanity and do not give up early are given a sand bird, a patch with a winged Excalibur and the motto "Who dares wins." And what about our special forces? The people crush and conquer walls with their heads. Of all the special units of the Russian armed forces, several can be distinguished. Special forces of the GRU, the Group Alpha, Vitis, Wimpel, Dolphin, Meshel and other units. Today in Russia there are about 30,000 special forces fighters, but among them there's also their own elite. It is 600 people who received a crimson beard, a sign of distinguished cooler than any superhero costume. Preparation of Crimson Beards. The glorious tradition of awarding the strongest of Crimson Beards was born at the end of the 70s and was finally formed by 1993. Today, every year, about 500 people compete for the right to wear a hat of the right color. Only 15 of them receive the Covenant hat. The course of survival begins with the traditional test of physical endurance, which invisibly turns into prolonged torture. 7 miles of cross-country skiing on rough terrain, forcing contaminated terrain with a gas mask, overcoming minefields, psychological treatment, an extremely difficult obstacle course after much throw, fire insurgency strip, storming high-rise buildings. All tasks are strictly regulated by time. The fighters who have not met the time limit come off the distance. The final stage of the course includes training fights, 12-minute fights with 3 opponents, 1 of the test subjects and 2 active Crimson Beards. Only 20% of the participants reach this stage. This figure is achieved by successfully increasing loads until the required dropout occurs. As a result, a happy fighter, barely standing on his feet, gets his Crimson Beard. Make your own conclusions from all the above. Who is cooler, SAS or GRU? Share your opinion in comments, and we'll go on. The document to be considered by the British Cabinet also states that traditional methods of warfare are being replaced by more complex forms of conflict between countries. Thus, if the government supports this proposal, the Special Air Service, SAS, Special Boat Service SPS and Special Intelligence Regiment will be restructured. All these units will start active cooperation with Mi-6 Secret Intelligence Service. Dmitry Drozdenko, Deputy Editor-in-Chief of the magazine Arsenal Otechества, the Arsenal of the Fatherland, notes that the British Special Forces participated in all conflicts of recent times. The fact that they are reorienting themselves towards Russia is not surprising, given that the US has doctrinally declared Russia an enemy, and Britain traditionally follows the political fairway of the United States. And with Britain itself, we've recently had a lot of conflict situation, Drozdenko told the Vzгляд, the View newspaper. According to him, the British Special Forces had previously appeared in the Arctic, participated in exercises in Norway and is now preparing to carry out combat operations in the cold regions of the planet, which could potentially threaten the interests of Russia. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments. Let's move. Both the United States and Britain have a significant interest in the Arctic. That's why Russia actively strengthens borders of its territories in the Arctic by armed forces, bases, builds icebreakers and ice-class ships, and it is a fact that these eagles will appear there. The main thing is that we are ready for it, noted the interlocutor. Drozdenko does not rule out that British special forces will act against Russia through intelligence and sabotage. The main purpose of special units is to disrupt communications, commit sabotage of ammunition storage areas, attack on control systems. That is disorganizing the well-coordinated work of the enemy's armed forces, but there are very effective counter-sabotage units to combat them. We should not forget about these too, summed up Drozdenko. For Russia it's clear it means nothing good, but on the other hand we need to understand that British special forces have long been acting against Russia in various theaters of undeclared warfare, military expert Alexei Leonkov told the newspaper Vzгляд. Such specialists are present everywhere in Ukraine, Syria and Central Asia. If we talk about Ukraine, British experts in military and political operations have been working there for a long time. We remember that a number of actions, phone calls and so on took place from the territory of Ukraine, both during the tragedy in Kemerovo and in a number of other cases, Leonkov said. According to the expert, the fact that Britain shifts its special units to the Russian direction only means that little known from now on is presented as a fact. It is a declaration that they will now openly engage in this. It is a declaration that they will now openly deal with it. Russia used to understand very well that many operations, as they say, were followed by British ears, their security services. For Russian specialists this is not news, but just a legalization of those issues that used to remain behind the skin, said Alexei Leonkov. Speaking about the fact that British press reports mention the Baltic states and Africa, the expert noted that now in these regions it is worth waiting for a large number of dumps and provocations which will try to blame Russia. I do not even rule out a series of terrorist attacks in the Baltics, the organization of which will then be on the aggressive Moscow, allegedly encroaching on the independence of the Baltic states, said Alexei Leonkov. The same can be expected on the African continent. Russia and China are now resuscitating African countries, involving them in economic projects, trying to mediate in some armed conflicts. Such painstaking and cautious work is going on. All these conflicts have a stage of deep desolation and signs of mass interference by foreign intelligence services, including the UK. Russia is quite capable to resist such unfriendly plans, the expert stressed. He reminded that there is a Federal Security Service which deals with just such issues. There is the sober special police which can be involved if necessary. In case of open penetration of subversive groups, there are also specialists who work in these areas. We are usually told only dry statistics at the end of the year, how much was prevented, captured and so on. Information about current work is not distributed, and apparently Russian specialists will have more of this work now, concluded Alexei Leonkov. That's it. Today we have not only decided to compare the two strongest special divisions of the world, but also to show the real situation of the clash of their interests. How good we've managed to do it, it's up to you to decide. Discuss and criticize in comments. Don't forget to subscribe our channel and press the bell not to miss any new videos on the channel.